Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. A beef between Cris Carter, Chad Ochocinco, and Asante Samuel?
Hey, this is Arif Hasan at Wide Left. Luke Braun is in the Twin Cities, and I will find him.
I'm Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings podcast. Yep, he's going to find me, and hopefully nobody else does.
What's happening, Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman? There's no way this computer is going to freeze 2 shows in a row. There's just no way.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talks Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
What's going on? Brand new week here on the Minnesota Football Party and Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first watch or listen of the week. Make sure it's Locked On Vikings for the second one. Find our video streaming on the Locked On Vikings YouTube channel, audio on the Locked On Vikings audio feed, video also on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Plenty of ways to watch and listen as always. You met the fellas. The show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Before the show is over, we will tell you, you didn't want to know, we're going to tell you anyway, about a beef involving Cris Carter, Chad Ochocinco / Johnson, and Asante Samuel. Yeah, we'll take sides in that. Discuss a quarterback doomsday scenario, but we start with the continuation of our Ranking the Vikings series. We got through 91 through 81 on Thursday. Today, we will endeavor to get through 20 of them, 80 through 61, as we count them down, the entire roster,
all right,
our top 91 Vikings series. Hope everybody had a happy 4th of July, good holiday weekend. We're back at it here today. Let me share the screen. We'll show you and quickly review where we were at with the rankings when we left off. We were going to try to get through 20 last Thursday. Didn't happen. That's okay. We ended controversially where I said that Tim Jones was in my bottom 10, and Luke Braun attacked me. I mean, he just opened a firing line on me and basically told me that I don't deserve to have a football podcast because I had Tim Jones, number 81. So that's where we left off.
You know what's crazy about that, Sam, is that I agree with Luke Braun's take, but also Luke Braun shouldn't have a football podcast.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything wrong so far. Nobody has lied or been incorrect yet today, so that's good.
For those listening, our Mr. Irrelevance on Thursday, a lot of people probably had the holiday weekend. Maybe you need to get caught up. My Mr. Irrelevant was Robert Lewis. Arif's was Miles Price, the wide receiver. Inman went with the Aussie punter, Oscar Chapman. Luke Braun went with the journeyman corner, Khalef Hailasi. I won't recap everybody's bottom 10, but let's get to number 80. Now, reminder, we're dealing with 69-man rosters now. You get a 16-man practice squad, 53-man roster. So we are nearing the practice squad bubble as we get into 70 through 61. But let's start with number 80. I'd like you to rattle off 5. Rattle off 5 to move it along a little more quickly. We'll go clockwise with Luke Inman.
80 for me, Bryson Nesbitt, UDFA tight end, North Carolina. Light pass catching tight end. I want to say he's like 238, more of a tweener right now. A big wide receiver, small tight end. Feels like very far away from being like a true inline blocker right now, but maybe they like him as a pass catcher. Obviously, they need some tight ends back there too. 79, Moosh Williams. I think Arif had him Last episode, I believe 6'7", they got him listed at 291. I know he started at Ohio State. He went to Vandy, Middle Tennessee State, got a 7th year of eligibility, goes to LA Tech. For all that, I don't think he's played a lot of football. I think from what I gathered, a lot of like 4 or 5 game seasons in there. But a monster, 6'7", 291, big boy, tall, lanky. Maybe you can just get your hands up, bat some balls down. Maybe that'll be his only shot. But he's got to be like at least 25. 7 years of eligibility. I couldn't find his age, but at least 25 years old. 78, Dante Fleming, wideout, Tulane, UDFA. 6'2", 180, I believe. Pretty light. Kind of worried about him getting knocked around a little bit. 77, the linebacker Dorian Massey, 5-year guy, 4 years at Duke, finished at Auburn. Again, just small, 6'1", 234. Did lead the team in tackles at Auburn last year. But again, lack of size, strength, athleticism, nothing really popping out there. 76, my 5th guy here, Joe Huber, offensive guard, Wisconsin. Right tackle, right guard, left guard, 4-year starter. I want to say like 37, 38 starts in there. Got invited to the East-West Shrine game, I remember too. So a little bit bigger, 6'5", 310, something like that. Decent. I think it was broad and 3 cones, something like that. But again, just a long way to go, I feel like, to make it an NFL roster. So those are my first 5 here, 80 through 76.
Who was 78?
Dante Fleming.
Dante Fleming, wide receiver, Tulane.
Tulane, little guy. Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Kind of little.
I don't think there's anything incredibly controversial here. I think Moosh Williams definitely is a non-candidate, which is if there's an obvious non-candidate, I'm always asking myself, why is it so obvious? What am I missing? Yeah, I think that this is a fair 80 through 76. Luke, who's clockwise here? Let's go with Arif Hasan. I guess we're not clockwise. We're more of like a stack on the left side of your screen.
Stack.
If you're watching. Also, are you guys impressed with my Excel game? How I froze those rows on top so everybody knows like whose column is whose.
I'm glad that you've learned that, Sam. 83% of your storage has been used. You can clean up space or get more storage.
You can delete some of those Thanksgiving drafts, Sam. It's
just press the X on the reminder, Sam.
Believe it or not, I'm already at the 100 gig. I'm already at the 100 gigs. So what's the next level? 500?
I think it goes right up to a terabyte. They go from 100 gigs to a terabyte.
Big jump.
I think for everybody watching at home, if you X the
since
notification, that would be great.
Yeah, just X the notification next to the button that says manage storage, and it will go away.
Goodbye.
Excellent.
Nice.
Okay.
Excellent. Everybody's having a much better time.
Also, why? I'm not gonna. We've solved one aesthetic problem. There's no reason for me to keep going. All right. It's just the top row is completely empty and it's part of the frozen. Anyway, so got
him.
Perfect.
Got him. There you go.
And the exclamation
The
point.
listeners are just.
This is great. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
audio listeners, I'm going to be honest. You're what you have missed. You're going to be happy you missed. Don't go back for this.
Yeah. I love doing this to the audio listeners, who I believe are the majority of our audience. This is a mess, Sam.
Wow. We are in peak off season right now.
There you go. That's sure. All right. So, Sam, are we ready?
Ready.
Are we
Go for
rolling?
it.
Okay. Dante Fleming, I usually like Tulane wide receivers. I've liked a lot of them. This guy was not on that list. So 6'2", 180. I wouldn't characterize him necessarily as small, but he is thin. Michelle Powell, safety from Miami. I don't know anything about him, so here he goes. The Emperor of Ethiopia, Khalif Hailasi, is my 78. I believe everyone has him lower than me. That's fair. Keenan Garber, cornerback, rookie from Kansas State. I did have the opportunity to watch him between last time and now, and I did not come away overly impressed. And then because Luke slandered Jonathan Harris, I looked up at Jonathan Harris, and I'm not going to say Luke was right.
Can't go that far. We're not going to go that far.
But
At the end of the day, he ends up like 4 spots different on our list.
Yeah, I don't anticipate him necessarily being a high tier candidate for the practice squad. Is how I'll put that.
Nice. That's Arif Hasan, 80 through 76. How about Luke Braun?
Yeah, this is kind of where you just start looking at all the undrafted rookies and making your choices. So it's going to be just a big, we're past the like journeyman clear camp body types, and we're into just, all right, here's your undrafted rookies that are maybe going to fight for practice squad slots. So I'm starting at 80 with Alexander Moosh-Williams. Next I have Zeke Correll. I think he's got a great path to the roster. But undersized center from NC State. Maybe I'm a little I'm not over it yet. All right, maybe I'm not over it, and I'm not ready to replace him. Mish Powell is next, then Dante Fleming, and then I have one that I know I'm going to be lower on than everybody else, and it's going to maybe be controversial. My next is Chaz Chambliss, mostly because when I watched Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, I also got to watch a little bit of Chaz Chambliss playing next to him, and
I have Chambliss on my next round, so you're not that far off.
All right, yeah, that is look,
he was supposed to be a pretty good get consensus board wise, but I know what you're saying.
I think that is driven almost entirely by sack totals, and I've never seen a clearer example of like fake college production. Just a lot of like one-on-ones with superstars next to him all the time at Georgia. A lot of, finesse kind of stuff, and a lot of really ugly moments of getting bumped to Timbuktu by tight ends. That guy needs to gain like 40 pounds before he's an NFL player.
Or maybe they're going to make him an off-ball linebacker who specializes.
Or learn how to cover. Either way, not loving your roster odds.
It's got to be a Will Ferrell mid-2000s movie name. Chaz Chambliss.
He's a Will Ferrell mid-2000s movie guy, too. If you ever do yourself a favor and look up an interview with him in like when he first joins Georgia and listen to just how thick that accent is. Oh boy, that is a country boy.
All right, I guess it's my turn. Reading some comments here. Yes, Sloth, absolutely right. We are getting into that territory of
Chaz Chambliss could be that guy that gets a really cool sack, and then everyone's like, why didn't he make the team?
We're about to hear Chaz Chambliss's name from yours truly. I don't hate him as much as Braun. Certainly undersized, but you think he really struggled to play the run, Braun? You thought
it was rough.
This is why Braun watches the real football, and this is why PFF is not the be-all, end-all, because the story that PFF tells would be that, oh, he's undersized, but he actually played the run okay, or he still tackled okay. And Braun uses his eyes, and he makes judgments.
I'm sure that there are like TFLs that are like ballooning his grade, because there are times when he can, swim past a guy and make a really cool play, and I bet that balloons his grade, but the way in which he loses is like, oh yeah, NFL players are all going to take advantage of that.
Number 80, tackle Marcellus Johnson. For me, practice squad guy last year, so he's not like bottom 10 because he's got a little bit of experience, but I don't think he's really got a shot. Miles Price, I think it was a late UDFA, and I believe everyone else has him in their bottom 10, I think. Actually, Braun, you have him higher? I don't see him on your list yet.
No, he's right there. It's 84.
Oh, yeah.
84?
Oh, I was like, did I forget him?
My mistake.
Go back.
Austin,
I like to use my mulligan.
One mulligan per day is allowed. Austin Keys. I like him more than Dorian Mazi. They played in the same Auburn front seven. I like Keys a little more than Mazi. I've got Keys at 78. I've got Ben Urasek, the tight end, at 77.
Really? That's
good.
Interesting.
Too high, too low.
A little low, but I mean, again,
I think I had him on my initial 53.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
What?
Yeah,
as the fourth tight end. Yeah, not over Bartholomew.
The thing between guy ranked 52 and guy ranked 70 is that there's not actually a ton of daylight there.
That's very true.
It's just the slander of the Italian stallion just knows no end. I mean,
this was pre-Italian stallion, but when
will it stop? When will it stop? So I go Johnson, Price, Keys, Urasek, and then Chaz Chambliss at 76. Right in the same spot as Luke Braun. Let's see, where are we at? We got 75, 71 coming up. We're going to take a quick pause. I think we have to stop sharing the screen as well. And we'll be right back with our next 5 on the Minnesota Football Party. Don't go anywhere. Do you like live sports? I do. Have you ever decided last minute to head to the game? I have. Well, summer sports are in full swing. You can get to WNBA games, Major League Baseball games. Cubs are in town this week. Might be a great opportunity to go see a really good Cubs team, probably a full ballpark against a Twins team that they're trying. They're trying to get back in the mix. All that's available to you at Game Time. They're an official ticketing partner of Major League Baseball. They've got great zone deals. You can get in the building up to 60% off before first pitch or the opening tip-off. Great last-second deals at Game Time, and it only takes a couple of clicks. You get the view from the seat, and there's no hidden fees when you toggle that on. So make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Create your account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Moving on and continuing with our top 91 Vikings. Let's share that one more time. Luke Inman, take it away, 75.
Michelle Powell, safety, Miami. I, too, don't know anything about this guy. I want to like him. Safety from Miami, sure. But until I find out anything about him, he's going to have to be 75 on my list. Jonathan Harris, edge. Been in the league a handful of years, if I'm not mistaken. UDFA for the Bears in like 2019. Went to Denver, actually played in Denver for like 4 years. I want to say 55, almost 60 games. Goes to the Dolphins. Dolphins cut him. Ends up here. Don't know a lot about his skill set. I know he sets the edge pretty well, but the fact that he actually has played games in the league, I had to put him at least in this second or third round here. Elijah Williams, edge, Morgan State, UDFA, MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. So watch out, guys. Started 42 games.
Do that to him.
Nice inflated stats down there at Morgan State.
I like to see you do it, Luke.
Oh, I can. Tweak my back though, so maybe a little bit. Just you know how it goes. Small school guy, just a big jump in competition. Just feels like a long road ahead. I feel like, but 2-3 years on the practice squad. Who knows? Where are we at now? Marcellus
72.
Johnson, offensive tackle, UDFA for the Giants. I know last year, Vikes picked him up, I believe, after like week 1 or week 2 last year. Left tackle for Eastern Michigan, started at Missouri the first couple years at right tackle, had an ankle injury, only started like 5 games. And then Chaz, linebacker, Will Ferrell movie, Chaz Chambliss, linebacker, Georgia, rounding out this next top 5 right here.
Yeah, Jonathan Harris is as controversial as you can get. I feel like we all have different opinions of what it means that you've been in the league, you've played NFL games. Does the experience matter? Or if it's not good experience, is that actually a detriment? I don't know.
I think when you're in the bottom of a roster like this and you've played a little, and that will help you, you've made teams before, you've been through camps before, and that will help you because you're battling these other guys for a spot. Jonathan Harris is battling Elijah Williams and Chaz Chambliss for that practice squad or that roster spot. But I think for me, the reason I have him as low as I do is I'm asking the question, what does the future for Jonathan Harris hold? And how likely are the Vikings going to use a practice squad slot on a guy that doesn't have the same future as one of these undrafted rookies they might be excited about? It's not like we're going to wait for Jonathan Harris to develop. He is who he is. Mm-hmm. So what's the potential there? Or are we getting this guy at the tail end of his career? It feels a little more likely that this is the tail end of his career. And good for you that you got in for the Broncos a little bit, but it kind of feels like we're past that point. Whereas there's a little bit more of an unknown to the undrafted guys that I have above him, at least.
No, yeah, I get it. It's just he's beaten so many Elijah Williamses and Chaz Chamblisses along the way to get here. So I just think a typical undrafted free agent has lower odds because most undrafted free agents never make a roster.
But not recently. That's what landed him here is losing those battles like the last couple times.
That makes sense. I mean, I do have him 76. I don't want to push back too hard, but my thinking is just that someone has beaten Chaz Chambliss and Elijah Williams before, and it's Jonathan Harris, right? Some previous iterations of those guys. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of why we looked at those differently, because I was like, well, most undrafted rookies just don't make rosters. So
right, which hey, we're still down here in the undrafted rookies that aren't making the roster.
Yeah, right, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I get what you're saying, though, Braun. I totally get it. Like, okay, we got one roster spot. Do we want to give it to a guy like Gabe Murphy, who he brought in to be that developmental guy, or do you want more of the veteran who, God forbid, our fifth, edge guy has to play? Do we want a guy who's actually played in the league for 4 or 5 years? I get it. I think it just depends on the coaching staff and where the team is at roster-wise, too. Are you in win now mode, or do you have the luxury at a couple positions to keep some of these developmental guys, like a Gabe Murphy, for example, again, on the roster or not? So, yeah, interesting to see where both you guys, I guess, Sam, do you have him on your list actually already? Let me see this.
I do not. I have him a little bit higher.
Interested to see where. Go ahead.
I am valuing the experience a little bit more, but not a ton more.
I feel like we're all going to have them within 10 spots of each other.
In the end, I think
that's going to be still Tim Jones still going to be the most polarizing. I feel like, at this point.
Tim, you guys are going to forget about Tim Jones by September 20th. The next
I'm not going to. He's not on my list for today.
I'll be watching the special teams tape. What are you talking about?
Tim Jones is making it.
Tim Jones and Ty Felton punt gunner is like a very likely scenario.
Oh, who was the Giants guy a handful of years ago that was like supposedly wide receiver 5? Can't remember his name, but that's the same type of person. I'll look it up. Yeah, go ahead, Arif. I'll figure it out.
I'm trying to remember who you're saying. It's not a guy named Pharaoh Brown. That's a Rams guy, but he had Pharaoh Brown vibes to me. What am I on? 75? Zeke Correll, who Luke talked about a little bit. Reddy Stewart, cornerback from Troy, ranked 444 on the consensus board 2 years ago, I think. I don't know a ton about him, but he's 24, 178 pounds. He's a cornerback. Deshaun Jones. So this is the first appearance from somebody who appeared last year, I think, on my list that I at least remember.
I think you're right.
I had really high hopes for him when he was a rookie last year, but I just think he wasn't meeting them. So there he is. Chaz Chambliss, we already talked about him a little bit, and then Bryson Nesbitt, Nepo baby tight end.
I definitely thought Chaz Chambliss was going to have a little more hype. I thought I was going to be fighting uphill there.
Yeah, he is a really well-regarded undrafted free agent, according to like the data, right? So I also would have expected that. I feel like I'm picking against type here on that one, but whatever.
Hey, Arif, can you put together a consensus board once we're done and then see how like the wisdom of this crowd plays out when it comes to like 53 man?
Yeah, this won't be tough. Just send it to me after we're done.
Great. I will. Luke Braun, next 5.
I can't see it. Where did I last leave off?
75.
Chaz? Okay. Next up, I have Austin Keys. I don't know a ton about a lot of these undrafted free agents, so I'm kind of just putting them in like the middle of the undrafted free agents and kind of hoping I'm not too wrong. Austin Keys, I got Vershawn Lee next, which I think that makes me a decent bit lower. I also have Joe Huber just right next to each other. I don't know what to make of those two guys. I don't really know what to expect out of either of those two guys. Mm-hmm. Then I have Elijah Williams out of Morgan State. And then the last one here is going to be somebody that I have not seen yet on anybody's list, but it's Silas Bolden. I know a lot of people are stoked on him as a possible returner. I do not think he's competing right now, but I kind of think that job is Ty Felton's. I think he's just going to get it. That's going to be or at least that's a tough out. That's a really tough one to beat when you like drafted a guy kind of on the premise of him being the returner a little bit. Really hard to win that job away as an undrafted rookie. It also doesn't help. We talked about Dante Fleming and we all put him lower than Silas Bolden on our lists, in part because he's only 180 pounds. Try 160. That's like nigh suicidal. Like that are you going to live the first time you get hit on a punt return?
Ace Sanders did it for like 4 years.
I'm looking at like Rondale Moore, who also is known, small, and people blame his size and the injury issues that he's 181. This could get ugly. And
he's never going to get tackled. He's just not going to get tackled.
He's just going to score a touchdown every time. If he does that, he gets the job.
Fair catches. That's what I meant.
And the only reason I don't have him below guys like Dante Fleming or guys that, have like a reasonable special teams upside and could like sneak onto a roster based on that, is because he has already been confirmed given a look at the punt returner job. Like, we know that he is competing for it, and therefore he has a clearer path to the roster than any of these guys that either have to like upend Gabe Murphy and get a fifth edge spot or do some special teams thing that we don't really know what it would be, but it would have to be something. At least we know what it is for Silas Bolden, which is why I even have him this high. But I kind of feel like he is looking at a pretty locked door onto the roster.
Okay,
I just found out from my Ace Sanders joke that Ace Sanders had 484 receiving yards in 2013.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell hanging on with the Rams at 5'9", 165. Try 5'8", 160. This is a person smaller than Tutu Atwell.
But don't you remember who was the guy? Alexander Hollins almost made a catch in the playoffs. Almost made a catch in the playoffs.
Bones was like 180, Sam. I don't think that's fair.
Was he? No way. No way.
He was
like tall too, so it felt
he was
different.
like Emmanuel Forbes, man. I think here's my vision. Backup special teams drills. Oscar Chapman is just banging these like low line drive punts.
These Aussie punts.
The bullets.
Bolden, yeah, like on the bounce, like he runs to his right.
Yeah, these weird bounces. You get an angle.
Dante Halls. Yeah,
Silas is going to look really good returning those kicks.
Bones at one point was 170.
Jeez.
I feel like at one point he
at like 6'2" though, right?
6'0".
6'0". Okay, well, still.
Yeah, he was slender.
For Silas Bolden to make the roster, he would have to usurp Ty Felton out of the return job. And by the way, that job might just go to like Isaiah Rodgers and nobody gets a chance too. But I kind of feel like Brian Flores might not let that happen. But like you have to kind of win that too. It feels like a really, really tough, even if he does have a couple good moments in practice, it just feels like a really tough sell when they drafted a guy in the third round, in part because of his ability to do a lot of special teams jobs.
Yeah, you make a good argument. I think I'm going to hang my hat on the on Silas Bolden being something, but I think the odds on would be Braun to be correct here. I've got Chapman, the Aussie punter, at 75. I just think that if you're a backup punter, and unless you're behind the best punter in the league, I mean, he could win the job.
Always got a shot.
It's not impossible
to
win a job against Ryan Wright. I mean, Ryan Wright is a fine punter who could be beaten out if he has a bad camp. So 75, Oscar Chapman. Elijah Williams, let's not forget, rookie camp signee. Sometime, and Arif, you've done the research on this. The Vikings have a history of making something out of that type of player, correct? I mean, this is something that happens.
Yes.
It's a
you are 4 times more likely, I think that's the number, 4 times more likely to make the roster as a camp signee, rookie camp signee, tryout signee, than a typical undrafted free agent. Because, I mean, and that makes sense. I think you've already cleared a hurdle, which demonstrates something.
Yeah.
It's fun because I think I'm the highest on Elijah Williams now because I haven't listed him yet.
Yeah, I like Elijah Williams. I like the rookie camp angle. I like the college production angle. We'll see. I've got Logan Brown, 73. Apparently, you guys have told me he beat up a guy in college, so I'm gonna dock him for the team chemistry aspect. I do kind of like his resume though. After that, I've got offensive lineman Henry Bird, and that I don't know where you guys have Bird or if you've put Bird yet. 2 years of practice squad experience, so he's more experienced than a lot of your camp bodies, but again, hasn't really made a roster. I think he's mostly a tackle, if I'm not mistaken. And then 71. Here's a big one. Brett Rippon.
You think Brett Rippon gets cut?
Ron has swayed me with his Max Brosmer propaganda.
This is just a take for take's sake. Got it.
Let's not forget.
You don't have Brosmer on your list yet, right? This is your take is Brosmer wins the QB3 job here. Okay. Right. Everybody should have a QB on there somewhere now because somebody's getting ousted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Rippon's thrown like 9 interceptions in 4 NFL games or something like that. I think we're forgetting that he's been a bad NFL player. So that's my number 71. We're into our 70 through 61. Why don't we knock out 5 more before the next break and let's fly? Luke Inman, hit me.
Yeah, Zeke Correll, center, North Carolina State, transferred to Notre Dame. I am ready to get my heart broken again on this guy. Who does he sound like? Football IQ, wins with technique, not really that strong, doesn't have the raw power. I'm kind of intrigued by him. I know he was a top 10 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and apparently he was very solid right in the middle of that Notre Dame offensive line last year. Max Brosmer, here's my first quarterback. Max Brosmer next. Jayshon Jones next. Again, another Maryland guy. A lot of not hype, but just we were intrigued about him last year. Entering year 2 now, it just seems like he's got a long shot to make the roster. Trey Stewart, running back, UDFA. And then Austin Keys, 3 years at Ole Miss, 2 years at Auburn. I want to say 6'2", 245, 250, somewhere in there. Kind of intrigued about him as a backup / special teams guy, maybe after a year or two of bulking up. But there's my next 5 right there.
Love it. Trey Stewart. That's one that I have like the asterisk next to. That's another kind of small school production guy. Arif Hasan.
Xavier Scott, running back out of Maine. I actually do like him as a guy that can basically do everything. So he's actually my lowest ranked running back. I don't think I have a running back anywhere else on this list yet. So I think the running backs are fairly compressed. Silas Bolden, wide receiver, Texas. We already talked about him. Dorian Massey, we talked about him a little bit. I do actually like what he's put on tape, but like linebacker, right? Lucky Jackson, I feel kind of bad about this, but I do like I like the middle of the receiver group, right? So it's kind of tough. And then Henry Bird. So no Elijah Williams yet for me.
All right.
Luke Braun.
I found myself fairly persuaded by all this Elijah Williams talk. I might use my mulligan and switch him with Silas Bolden. I might just push him up because he has a clear path to the roster. I think just by the history of being the rookie minicamp guy.
So you're switching him one spot?
Yeah, symbolically as a way of saying good points.
Stock up. Stock is pointing up.
Stock up.
Straight up.
My next 5 are Dorian Massey. Then I have Keenan Garber out of Kansas State. I have Reddy Stewart. I similarly don't know a lot of what to make out of him. I kind of have a string of guys that like feel like they have decent grasps on a practice squad slot, which are Reddy Stewart, Henry Bird, and Marcellus Johnson.
Who was 70?
Keenan Garber.
It went Dorian Massey, Keenan Garber, Reddy Stewart, Henry Bird, Marcellus Johnson.
Dang it. Dorian.
You screwed it up.
Massey.
Also, you spelled Reddy Stewart wrong, I think.
No. Double check.
Reddy.
I would bet
it's Stewart, right?
I would bet a substantial amount of money that it's
no, you got it. No, you got it.
Stewart.
Yeah.
And who was your number 69?
Nice.
After Dorian Massey was Keenan Garber.
A rat.
Again, it's like a lot of undrafted rookies kind of here, and the practice squad will be comprised of most of them. So being in the sort of 60s and 70s and having mostly undrafted rookies feels appropriate.
There were 2 guys that you guys have mentioned that I'm wondering if I goofed in my list and I left out. So I got to decide on the fly where I put Xavier Scott because I think I left him off. Well, this is hard. So number 70, I had Reddy Stewart. I read a dispatch that Reddy Stewart had a big preseason with the Bears or a good training camp. One of the 2. I like the Reddy Stewart.
Did that result in a roster for him or?
Hey, you can't always make it. When you're stacked like the Bears, when you're as deep as the Bears are, it is hard to make a team.
Especially in Hail Mary situations like the Bears are, right?
Especially on that D-line where they're so satisfied with their protection.
Obviously, number 69 for me, Giovanni Ricci.
Perfect. Obviously. Ideal 69 here.
Yep.
The Italian Stallion. Number 68. Jonathan Harris. So we have a 13 spot discrepancy on Harris, I think. I've got him at number 68. I'm going to lean on some of that experience and say that he's one injury away. he's an injury away to Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. I don't know. He can play inside a little bit, right? He's not just an edge. Like, it could be an injury to Jalen Redmond. I don't know. One injury
You can play
away
wherever
from
you
being in
want.
the mix.
Is he going to be good? We don't know. But
you can put him at quarterback.
Go ahead, he'll
Who's
do
to
it.
say, right?
I used my mulligan last time on Tyler Batty because I was chastised for putting him too low. So I've inserted him here. Tyler Batty, number 67, squarely in practice squad contention. Then I've got Brosmer, number 66, Max Brosmer.
You got
so not a huge difference between Brett Rippon and Brosmer for you.
No, just giving him the edge, just a little edge. And I think those are my next 5. Again, I don't know what I'm doing with Keenan Garber or Xavier Scott. I got to figure that out. Let's pause. We'll do our next 5 on the other side of this very short break. And it's Luke Inman's turn for 65 through 61, the final segment of today's ranking.
Reddy Stewart, Silas Bolden, Lucky Jackson, R.I.P., Henry Bird. And then I got Thayer Thomas, as much as it hurts.
Henry Bird. So you stocked up on the wide receivers here. Bolden, Jackson, and Thayer. Always liked Thayer. We'll get into Thayer. Is this year 3 for Thayer? This has got to be third year. Yeah. Did he have an injury that wiped out one preseason, or am I thinking of like?
Oh, that does sound familiar.
Blake Prohl. Like, I feel like I'm lumping him together, maybe. But
maybe.
Yeah. Why would that be? Do you think?
Why don't you put Chad Beebe in there too?
Did Thayer have a famous father? I'm assuming that was
that would probably be the connection. I would think.
Does he play music? Does Thayer Thomas play guitar? Does he sing? Maybe that's
aspiring DJ.
Arif.
This is where I put Elijah Williams at 65. Outstanding PFF grades, by the way.
Tested well, also, right?
Yeah,
tested well.
Yeah. No, he's got. I think he's a little bit shorter than you want at the edge, but other than that, like, the testing is great. Then I have Austin Keys, who also had really outstanding PFF grades. Like 6'2", 247, right? Something like that. This is also where I have Trey Stewart, running back. So it's not too much of a difference between him and Xavier Scott. And then Joe Huber and Michael Jerkins, which I think is one of the few repeats after Lucky Jackson, right? Yeah, I think that's the only one after that who's on the roster recently.
So that's cut territory. You've got Jergens,
yes,
on the bubble.
Correct. I would love to be wrong about this.
If he gets cut, and not to spoil the rest of your list, but if he gets cut, who's the backup center?
Who's to say?
Where do you have Carell and Huber? Do you have them?
They're Huber's right next to Jurgens, right? So there's that.
There. Okay.
And do you not have Carell yet?
Lee?
Carell is.
You got Vershawn Lee way back there.
Yeah. Okay. So
look, I don't think it's crazy
for a guy
to imagine a world where one of these guys does beat out Michael Jurgens. He was a mess in the preseason last year.
Correct. Yeah.
But the Vikings coaches would have you believe otherwise. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe they.
Yeah. Also, important to note that this isn't when we get to the top 53, that's not our 53-man rosters. This is just like a ranking of however we want to rank these players in terms of probability that they'll make it or probability that they have an impact. So at somewhere, what I'm really kind of expressing here is that the guards and centers that are at the bottom of the list are really close together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them is going to beat out my ranking, but I think that they're all so close to each other and none of them are that good that it's almost immaterial. Plus they could just grab a guy off of waivers.
Braun, give me 5.
I kind of did the same thing that you guys are starting to do where it's okay, one of these guys is going to get a practice squad slot. I don't really have any idea who, but I have Xavier Scott and then Trey Stewart as my next 2. One of these guys is getting a spot. There is a spot for one of them. I have no idea what to make out of them or which it is. I guess if I had to gun to my head pick one, it's Trey Stewart, but they're next to each other kind of for that reason. Then I have Zamiah Vaughn. I think I'm a little higher on him than a lot of people. I'm going purely off of the fact that there were some reports that he looked pretty cool at OTAs. That is literally it.
I think you're the lowest out of the four of us.
Nobody's had Vaughn.
Nobody's had him. I could have sworn. Okay, well, I'm misremembered. All right, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently he's a dude. And then I have Logan Braun and then Tyler Batty, as we're getting into the undrafted rookies that people seem to think have an outside shot at the 53. Mm-hmm. Those are the next kind of two of mine.
Well, Zamiah Vaughn is my number 60, and I ranked him quote this high, for the same reason that you did, because
people are starting to talk about him. It's why I haven't said Jayshon Jones yet either.
Final five for me. We're gonna go Ambry Thomas at 65. Has anybody said Thomas yet?
No, he was Ron Johnson's guy, right? He's also
he is like, big time.
I got him coming up.
Same high school.
Yeah. Guy with starting experience. At least you have to put him in the mix for the 53, right?
Not that far removed from meaningful snaps with the Niners. I don't know if they were good snaps, but we're having that same debate about Jonathan Harris, about like anyone who's played on NFL rosters.
His snaps mattered more than Jonathan Harris.
He had a really big moment in the 49ers 2021 season, where they went to the NFC Championship and then lost to the Rams in SoFi. The first time they played the Rams in SoFi, and they needed to win, and he got the game-sealing interception. Like, he had like a pretty good run of play, which I think is very distinct from Jonathan Harris, who like got in as a random reserve kind of Bo Richter type snaps and then like didn't make a team for 3 years.
Yeah, I think the Vikings would love to have a veteran corner on their practice. They do every year. They have one or two veteran types that have starting experience in the building. They get elevated a couple times a year. Feels exactly like Ambry Thomas. I'm going to slide Xavier Scott in here where I had not included him previously. I'm going to go Keenan Garber next. Big RAS score. I think it was in the 9s. And is he Kansas State? I believe he was Kansas State.
Yeah.
Yep. Jayshon Jones, 62. And my 61 is Zeke Correll. Interior flexibility. I'm saving Joe Huber for next show. So consider that.
Big Badgers fan.
Correll out of North Carolina State. And I also have not mentioned Vershawn Lee.
Yeah.
That's right. You're pretty high on him.
I'm high on Vershawn Lee, as Arif knows. We did it. We got through 80 through 61. Next time we'll do 20 more, ranking all 91 Vikings. Wow, good job, guys. That was pretty efficient. 42 minutes. Well done. Let's dive into this.
42 minutes on the undrafted guys. Good job.
That's what it's all about. All right, so Cris Carter called out Chad Johnson. He said he's got no shot at the Hall of Fame. Asante Samuel, not to be confused with Asante Samuel Jr., but maybe this influences Asante Samuel Jr.'s decision. Maybe his dad is like, hey, you cannot go to Minnesota now. Because
that
Cris
would
Carter,
be so funny and stupid.
Would the same thing happen to Philadelphia?
You can't go to Philly.
You can't
that's
go to
the only connection, right? Hey, he played for that team. Screw that guy.
The Dolphins are off the table.
The Dolphins are off the table.
The Dolphins got rid of Jalen Ramsey. No, you can't go there. You cannot replace Jalen Ramsey. Because Cris Carter calls out Chad Johnson. Asante Samuel chimes in and says Cris Carter is overrated. Who's more wrong here in these big hot take statements? What do you got, Arif? You have a good historical perspective.
Sure. I mean, when Cris Carter retired, he finished second in receptions and touchdowns, I believe. I'm not a huge volume guy, but also Cris Carter's first 3 years in the NFL functionally didn't exist aside from the 11 touchdowns he had. Asante Samuel's argument seems to just be he was just a possession receiver and didn't get many yards after the catch. And while it is true that he didn't get many yards after the catch, having some of the best hands in the history of the NFL and producing multiple 120 plus catch seasons in generating the touchdowns that he did, that's ridiculous. I mean, just look at his 1994. I think it's insane to say that a guy is overrated because he specialized in one skill versus another. I don't think anyone has ever said Cris Carter is an all-around receiver. So I don't know what overrated means in this context, but like, there's no question he's a Hall of Fame receiver who has talents that are uniquely his, that he's the best at in the history of the NFL. So that's like very weird to me. I do think Ocho Cinco is probably a little overrated, but it wouldn't shock me if he made the Hall of Fame. He's like 11,000 receiving yards, right? So like he's probably going to make it. But I think that the odds that Ocho Cinco makes the Hall of Fame are lower than the likelihood that Asante Samuel is correct. Which, by the way, speaking of overrated guys, Asante Samuel, who was really good at his peak, but his peak was like pretty short. And he was a gambler.
Asante Samuel's legacy would be better if he caught that one in the 2007 Super Bowl.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's known for. But like,
yeah, maybe he's really mad about someone with better hands.
Yeah, like if we're talking about one-dimensional guys, Asante Samuel.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
look at tackle, makes his entire game about gambling on whether or not, and he was kind of good for about 4 years at gambling on whether or not he was going to get the pass deflection interception, but he allowed a ton of big plays, notably one, right? And and just gets run over all the time. We talk about one-dimensional guys. Come on.
Are we not just doing exactly all he does is catch touchdowns again? This was like for Cris Carter's like entire career. It's
like,
yeah, you don't get yards after the catch. Somebody in the chat said it. Like, it's hard to get yards after the catch when you catch the ball in the end zone.
Yep.
That's what
130 times, I think.
What are you worried about as a corner? Him catching a touchdown on you. He was incredibly prolific.
Also, but too, maybe not a lot of yak, but on the money downs. That KOC always talks about the money down, down, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11. Okay, maybe I can't run past, but you know what? Even if you got sticky coverage, you're one of the best man-to-man corners in the league. My hands and routes are so good. My catch radius, tiptoeing on the sideline is so good. Even if you have perfect coverage, I can still get that first down and move the chains. Like, that's just how good he was. So, yeah, yak, okay, that's only one phase of the game, though, as a receiver. And he was still so well-rounded, in my opinion. Kind of a mute, kind of dumb conversation, to be honest.
The durability doesn't get discussed enough. From 88 to 2001, missed 4 games.
That's insane.
Broke his collarbone to N92, missed 4 games in 14 years.
That's insane.
Like Ocho Cinco, unbelievable 6-year stretch. And then we talked about this kind of with the conversation a couple weeks ago about there's a lot of elite receivers that are considered to be top 3 in the league. They tail off at age 30. Exactly what happened with Chad Johnson. He's like, you're comparing him to the likes of Deshaun Jackson and Roddy White and like other 10,000 yard, 11,000 yard guys. You're not comparing him to the likes of Cris Carter. Like, there's a reason for that because durability is so important, but also not every receiver is Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, there's different skill sets. Adam Thielen, great receiver, not a yak receiver. Do we care about that? No, he produced, right? Like, we always talked about how, like, if we're comparing like Diggs and Thielen to Moss and Carter, Thielen was always the Carter. He was the hands guy.
Look, if Asante Samuel cared so much about yak, why do you allow more yak than any other cornerback in the NFL in 2009? Come on.
Oh, that's because that's the only thing he ever worries about. Yeah, because that's the thing that gets him. That makes total sense now. Of course he would care too much about yak. That's the only way someone would make him feel bad. Oh, he can't do that. I'm not scared of him.
He missed 1/5 of all of his tackle attempts. Come
on. Left on Landon. Did Randy Moss help or hurt Carter's production?
Just from like a pure like yardage, I think it hurt. Right, because he was like a 1,200 to 1,400 yard receiver. Then Moss arrives and he's a 1,000 yard receiver.
So the numbers on 98 through 01, Carter 1,000 yards in 98, 1,241 the next year, 1,274 year after that. I mean, he had more yards in 99 and 2000 than he did a lot of previous years. So I don't know if you can say that it really hurt him that much, to be honest.
It's probably not.
There's a clear difference between the fantasy football and the real football answer. Like, if you want to talk about like market share and all that, you could have a debatable point, it sounds like. But in terms of like, was it like better for the offense and for Cris Carter to have like easier opportunities and stuff?
Yeah, Cris Carter got more
man.
open during the
He got
Randy Moss
CB2
era.
all the time. Like that's obviously going to help. You're just not going to have as much volume. So depends on, are you asking about his over under or like the actual efficacy of Cris Carter as a football player?
Macho Meach. Moss hurt Carter the way that Thielen hurt Treadwell.
All right, so his yards per game without Moss in Minnesota, about 1 yard higher without Moss. If we're talking like season long totals.
That's a big yard.
So real tough stuff for him to produce.
That's insane.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah.
That is a wild stat.
And Jake Reed, wide receiver.
Part of it obviously is that the Vikings just threw the ball way more.
Yeah, like they got that much more production that Randy Moss didn't need to take anybody's target share away. Like what?
He just produced yards that were in the ether. Right?
Yeah.
Like he just grabbed out of nowhere.
I guess they were in the ether by virtue of being behind the defense. They usually aren't covering that part.
Carter averaged 138 targets in the 4 Moss overlap seasons. What I say, 138? Moss averaged. Hold it.
Oh yeah, Carter's yards per reception did go up by like 1.5 yards. That is one significant difference between the two, which like makes sense, right?
Everything's stretching out more.
Yeah,
136 for Moss, so Carter still out targeted him.
Great.
Wide receiver 1, Cris Carter.
There you go. That's how you define it.
Yeah.
So what is the debate whether Cris Carter or Chad Johnson had a better career?
No, it's just I think what Samuel, because like Johnson bagged on Travis Hunter, I think. Like Travis Hunter.
He was like,
and Cris Carter was like, "You're like 38 or whatever." Like, no, that's wrong. Travis Hunter's coming off.
He said he's got a better chance of getting into the Hall of Fame than winning 1 out of 10 reps. And the guy goes, "What's his chance of getting in the Hall of Fame?" He goes, 0.
Oh, he's 47, by the way, Chad Johnson. If you want to feel old.
Oh God.
Star of the fan-controlled football league, I think. If I recall,
if you want to feel
not that long ago.
If you want to feel old, check out Notre Dame's 2026 commit class.
Oh, God.
It has like 4.
Oh yeah,
4 of the wide receivers are sons of NFL players like Larry Fitzgerald. Like
I knew
Fitz.
Yeah. What? Okay, I'll look it up.
There's like 7 nepo babies on Notre Dame's 2026 commit list. It's crazy. They just went after all of the NFL sons.
So is Cris Carter right about Chad? Is he not going to make the
Michael
Hall of Fame? Because I feel
kid?
Yeah,
like
I think he's a 20% shot. I think.
I think the odds are greater than 0. 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, over 10,000 receiving yards. The argument is there, but it's been so difficult to get receivers into the Hall of Fame, right? Like, so that's like, I think a big part of the problem here. Like, I think if it was just resumes, yes, no, I think Johnson might get in, but because we've had so many jams, right? Log jams at the positions. It's been tough to get guys in. And so he might just age out because, I mean, have you seen like the next couple of Hall of Fame classes coming up? Like it's going to be crazy to try and get in through this morass of guys. And Chad Johnson is not better than any of these guys coming up. So yeah, it'd be tough.
Vikings doomsday scenario right after this. All right, let's make this a 4-minute drill.
Start the clock. It's time to execute the 4-minute drill.
Sometimes we got to talk about the doomsday scenarios, the negative scenarios. Let's say that we have a 2016. McCarthy goes down in the preseason. 4-minute drill, minute each. Who you trading for? Who you trading for? Who's your Sam Bradford? Luke Braun, go ahead.
Sam, you might like this. I say there are two teams that seem to have these sort of three-headed monsters at quarterback might want to dump one. I think the first answer that comes to mind is the Browns. And if they are, happy enough with one of the rookies or something, maybe you could get Kenny Pickett in the building. But what about this? What if Jackson Dart has a great camp? What you want to talk about a Sam Bradford situation? What if they're going to start Jackson Dart week 1 and you could get Russell Wilson in the building?
You're right.
Oh.
You're right. Me, leader of the Russell Wilson tongue-in-cheek fan club, would love this.
Yeah,
Would
tongue-in-cheek.
absolutely
for sure.
love this.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Can we get Jameis instead?
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, Jameis is the more realistic, whether or not Jackson Dart is good. It kind of feels like Jameis is this extraneous piece that would probably be open for business. But I don't want to.
So realistically, you guys know more about the cap situation. What does it cost to bring Kirk Cousins back in for a year? A rent?
It doesn't matter because Kirk's not coming in on that contract.
So it's not a cut if there was
After
a cut.
Kirk Cousins' preseason waiver.
This would be a negotiation, right? Like Atlanta's still probably eating most of it. So you probably would make the trade under the scenario where Atlanta takes enough salary that you could make it work. Let's say that.
I believe this was reported about from Atlanta's side. They were willing to take on $10 million of the contract, but not more, which I thought was like, they're going to have to move that number again.
Yeah.
But it might not. They might fight you more than you think on that.
Yeah. His cap hit this year is $40 million. So
yeah, I don't know why Atlanta signed that contract.
Well, and then drafted.
And I think it's extraordinarily weird that so many people, not here. I don't think not on this here panel. But lots of people in the Vikings and national spaces were like, whoa, they let Kirk Cousins go for, did you see what Atlanta did? Yeah, they didn't do that. Which I feel like I'm saying a lot lately. Did you see what Atlanta did? Of course nobody said yes to that.
Yeah. Also, it sounded like based on the reporting, and maybe I'm misremembering things, so, check me because I haven't, looked this up. But it sounded like that Cousins was willing to take less to stay with the Vikings if they hadn't had told him that they were going to draft a quarterback.
It was about the year-to-year of it all. He wanted a longer-term deal, and it was going to be either like a series of one-year deals or a contract that was functionally that.
Right.
And so...
I guess I don't want to veer too far off here, our 4-minute drill here. I got a couple names I want to give you, but you can't tell me Atlanta's going to pay Kirk Cousins $40 million to sit on the bench.
Well, they're paying him $27.5 million. A lot of that is from the signing bonus that they're on the hook for no matter what.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Still a bleep load.
Okay. So, I just don't get it. There's no way. They got their guy, their new development guy, used a top 10 pick on him, already played him last year.
Yeah.
They're all in on Michael Penix. There's no way you can be competitive.
I think a Cousins trade is
$30 million.
It's got to happen.
It's
got to happen.
The thing is, if they trade him, there's no way for them to avoid $37.5
No, they're going to have to eat a lot of it.
Yeah,
but
they have to, at the very minimum, take $37.5 million in dead cap from trading him because that's the proration of the signing bonus. You can't offload that on another team. You've already paid that out. So
that will split up June 1st style, which helps.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
Because we're past June 1st.
But they will have to take that on, plus whatever another team is going to negotiate. Anyway, my pick was Daniel Jones. I think that's
bring
funny.
him back. Bring him back. Bring him back.
Whoever Anthony Richardson or whatever wins the Colts or I don't know that job, and then Daniel Jones is free, right? And he knows the system allegedly.
Been in the building.
He's been in the building, and apparently being in the building for 3
he's telling
weeks,
the UDFAs, no, you go down this hall, you take a right, and then a left. Like he knows, he's got it.
He knows the name of the security guys. It's great, right? And 3 weeks in the building is enough for you to earn a $12 million or whatever crazy contract he got from just hanging out in Minnesota. You could just have him hang out even more. The hangout vibes are immaculate. So
I talked to a Colts source last week, and they were very strongly under the impression that Daniel Jones is the front runner for this job. Yeah. And I remember last year that after the Colts game, Kevin O'Connell was whispering sweet nothings in Anthony Richardson's ear. What if Jones?
That actually feels more likely than Daniel Jones to me.
Such the guy.
Yeah,
that
it
Anthony
does.
Richardson comes to Minnesota.
Keep
as
trading those
the-
draft picks.
It's
might as
not
well.
good in Indy. It's like broken in Indy with like that relationship is broken, and the relationship with Daniel Jones is good. Like it feels
checked
like if you
himself
call
out of
Indy and
the
you're like, I
game.
need a quarterback, I don't think they're putting Daniel Jones up. I think
He
they're
checked
putting up
himself
Anthony
out. He
Richardson.
said, "I'm tired." And I'm like, dude, it's a
That's-
4-minute
that's not
warning.
great.
I mean,
let's
in
go.
fairness, I want to do that a lot on this show,
That's
but
true.
I don't. To my credit, I don't.
Right,
I don't do
exactly.
it.
Yeah, well,
Like-
that you're worth a second round pick, a mid to late second round pick. I like Daniel Jones. Probably not going to happen. How about Jake Browning? I mean, I know obviously
the
Joe
last
Burrow
three names
has.
you mentioned are just like, hey, what about the
He's
guy
beating
that
the
was-
Vikings.
Yeah.
Oh,
You need the Bengals to believe very hard in Logan Woodside as their backup,
Well, they
I
did
can-
it once
I
with
can
Jake
believe
Browning.
that
Why
they
can't they
could
do it
do
again?
or
with
start
Logan
paying
Woodside?
good draft picks for Mitch Trubisky.
Again.
Trubisky on the Bills.
Well, I mean, how many years
my-
does Browning have left on his contract? Because are they going to be able to retain him? I mean, he was like one of,
True.
if not the best backup quarterback in the league last year. I think he threw like 70% completion, almost 2,000 yards.
It does
something
weigh
like that.
heavily on the Cincinnati mind.
So
that's
if you're going to lose him anyways after this year, feels like he's got to be coming up to that 4th or 5th year. Maybe try to get a little draft pick compensation for.
I will say we should consider Andy Dalton here, right? Like if the end of the Panthers,
It's that you're not wrong, man. God.
yeah. If the end of the Bryce Young season was as positive as people are saying, which I think so actually. Then hey, they've got all the optimism in the world for this young child out in North Carolina.
Drew
Sam.
Lock, waiver claim. He gets cut by Seattle. They're happy with Milroe, Darnold. How about that?
We got some good
Yay.
candidates.
Sure.
Inman just had an epiphany.
Well, our guy,
Who's our guy?
Hendon Hooker.
Who's our guy?
Oh
Hendon.
my God.
Go get him. Go
I
get
can't
him.
imagine giving up draft capital for Hendon Hooker.
Go get him.
I
thought you were
would-
gonna say- I thought you were going to say Kyle Sloter, and I was like, yeah, well, he is available. That's true.
He's a fan. I would,
Probably
like
more
the Detroit Lions, rather pull Teddy Bridgewater out of retirement.
He's available.
Much like the playoff contending Detroit Lions made that choice too.
Honestly, okay. Jokes aside, after that, moving on to the next bit. Where's your confidence level with Sam Howell? Because I bet you if there was like a ranking the 32 quarterbacks, Sam Howell would be in the top 10.
If Sam Howell were
15
on another
maybe?
team, we'd be bringing him up right now, probably.
That's actually a pretty decent
Right?
point. Yeah.
That's a good point, right?
And hey, by the way, like I just mentioned Daniel Jones. What is Sam Howell if not a shorter Daniel Jones with less starting experience?
And more turnover prone, I think.
I mean, if you include fumbles, no, he's not.
That's a pretty good point, actually. Yeah, those are sure are.
Tapped out?
Yeah, not tapping out.
No.
Oh, James Kudow. That's a great one. Get Joe Milton
Milton.
traded again.
Another,
That Bills game
if we
against
can't get
Jaguars was
Hendon,
great.
Luke,
Bring him
if we
in.
can't get Hendon, another Tennessee guy.
Yeah.
Joe
There
Milton.
you
Oh,
go.
I was thinking if you can't get Anthony Richardson, another insano athlete that doesn't have a quarterback.
Somebody in the chat mentioned Taylor Heineke. The Chargers have Justin Herbert, Trey Lance, and Taylor Heineke in the building. You might give him a call. Like that's
They
a
have Easton Stick also.
No, Easton Stick is long gone.
Oh, he's gone.
PHT. I'm not in hell right now as a Vols hater. Talking about all these failed Vols projects is bringing me a lot of joy. Actually, the fact that they once again all enter the league and then do nothing. Yeah, exactly.
We haven't seen him yet. So.
We only talk about him in July when we talk about hypothetical trades that nobody wants to do. Yeah.
Who was the last?
No, he's not in hell though. He's fine.
Yeah, no, he's
totally
happy,
fine.
No,
actually.
I am thriving.
And he's relaxed.
Have the Vikes had a good former volunteer on the roster recently that I
Cordero
can't?
Patterson.
Cordero. Okay, thank you.
No, there was.
Thank you.
There was a D tackle that I can't remember who it was.
Do you remember
Daniel
when
McCullers,
Cordell
the
came out of
400-pound
Tennessee
nose tackle?
and Tennessee had Justin Long, who was like a second-round pick, and Derrick Rogers, who everybody
Justin
was
Hunter.
Yes, Justin Hunter. Thank you.
Yeah,
Justin
that was
Long,
a
accurate.
crazy receiving.
And
core.
Derrick Rogers,
None
I
of
think,
whom
went
did anything.
undrafted, and he had the most hype of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
Dang.
And then they had that tight end. that the
Tennessee
Vikings
drafted
signed.
him, Hunter, or
Yeah. And then they had the tight end that transferred out of Tennessee to like Middle Tennessee State that the Vikings signed and then cut partway through camp because he kept missing camp. He says because of headaches. Later, the rumors were because he kept missing curfew. The Canoodle.
Oh, dude, what was his
Mike
name?
Zimmer was mad. I remember he had a crazy mock draftable web though. I remember that.
While you look that up, I'll start rolling the credits. We are back on Thursday, Minnesota Football Party. Luke Braun, you got to love being in Central Time, huh? No more early alarm. Not bad.
No. West Coast is God's time zone.
I'm glad you're feeling bad.
Thanks.
No problem. See you tomorrow.
Enjoy the Sunshine State, as they call it. Did we get a name? Did we get an answer to that
Yeah,
loose
did we
end?
figure it
Can't
out?
find it.
Can't find it. 2014. I don't care.
Go read Arif Hasan's Wide Left. Watch the postcasts with Luke Inman, Twins baseball every day. Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching. We rank more dudes on Thursday on the Minnesota Football Party.